Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Authentic Leadership 101, where we were running a little behind with traffic and weather. So that's what it is. That's what happens. Sometimes you have it on time, sometimes you don't. But we're happy to be here. And we're talking about something real good today with my lovely co host, Tracy Borreson. Tracy, how was your weekend?
It was so good. It's actually really nice here. Like my son was out riding his bike today, which is
Okay. Tell me
very
about
unusual for Calgary
Yeah.
in February. So we just go with it. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, we went to the mountains this weekend and it was just good to be in nature a little bit.
In nature a little bit. Yeah, but I
Hmm.
didn't get to be in nature. It was cold this weekend. It was raining. It's 20s. It's been in the 20s for the past 3 or 4 days. Extremely cold with wind chills in the 17 digits, the low teens. So it's a little bit cold outside. Today it was rainy and wind blowing, so that didn't make for good, especially be outside travel weather because it was pretty much horrible. But here we are, and here we go. Hey, here the crew is coming in.
Yes,
Hey,
we
Tanya.
made
Hey.
it.
Yes, they made it.
What,
They made it.
what?
They made it. Tanya, you didn't hear us. We was giving all of our excuses for why we was late, but we still showed up, right? Tracy was here waiting on me. You know what I'm saying? With open arms, like, come on, guys, let's get
Yeah,
it. Let's
normally
get it.
Carl John's waiting for me, so
Thank
it's
you,
all fair.
Bruce. How are you, Bruce? You gracing us with your presence today, buddy. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. So we're just talking about we're talking about the role of forgiveness in authentic leadership. And when you think about um, when you're thinking about that, and you're thinking about the aspect of I don't know because we always talk about. Oh yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Bruce. 70 degrees in Arizona. Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it, man. Well, it's 22 here in the Northeast. Okay. Thank you, though. Thank you. Now I can see why you're in the blue T-shirt, not a sweater and button down like I am. But when we talk about the role of forgiveness and authentic leadership, what does that really look like? Because when we're talking about as a leader, and I don't find this to be a characteristic of a lot of leaders that have been over me, who I've worked with, maybe reported to, or didn't where they just in the presence of the companies that I work for. I did not see forgiveness in that. And when we talk about forgiveness, forgiveness can go in a lot of different ways. Most of the time, when we talk about forgiveness, we think about somebody hurt our feelings, or somebody said something I didn't like, or they addressed something that has caused us a little discomfort, right? And most of the time, we relate that to feelings because you hurt my feelings, so I really want, or I hurt your feelings. Could you please forgive me? But that goes so far past that simple dynamic of feelings hurt, and especially when it comes to the role of leadership. And I think what's often misconstrued, or maybe not even taken in consideration, is that when you are the leader, your functionality toward those that lead must be different than everyone else. And in the essence of that, being authentic plays a big part in that. In that how you are, first and foremost, how you interact with them. Secondly, and thirdly, how forgiveness is even recognized that it needs to be there. Because a lot of times, leaders have this kind of like mantra of, okay, I'm the leader, you say what I do, and that's it. But when you have people that you're leading, the authentic leader, so I see, Tracy could chime in on this as well. So I see that my role as the authentic leader is to keep a cohesiveness of all of us being together on one accord, working toward one objective, working harmoniously, right? I love that word, harmoniously. Yes. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that every day we're going to get along. But what that means is that the bottom line, we've all agreed that the bottom line is what we want to meet. So how we have to concede in our maybe interactions, attitudes, gestures, language, all of those things bring about how we're going to get this done. And forgiveness, a lot of time, needs to be a part of that is self awareness and those kind of things because objectivity of it all is that you want to do things in a tactful, stateful manner where you can get things done. The leadership understands that they're aware of issues and problems, or such as myself being a little late today for this broadcast, there has to be some role of forgiveness in the essence of that. I thought I would throw that in, Tracy. Let me hear what you got to say about that. I thought that would be a nice little
Well,
segment.
it's so funny because I was saying behind the scenes before we started, like, it's fine. We're talking about forgiveness today. Everybody who's waiting for us in the comments can just forgive us once we get started. Um, but there's, Carl Shawn, you mentioned that there's tons of different directions that you can go when it comes to forgiveness. And one of the things that we talk about a lot on this show is the concept of humans being humans, and the fact that in the process of humans being humans, whether that is you as a leader, you as an employee, you owning a company, you with a client, whatever, fill in the any human to human interaction, parenting, talking to your spouse, right? There's something we're going to get wrong at some point. And if we don't have the skills of forgiving, then really what we're creating is a very robotic environment, right? And this is not talking about like forgiveness without additional training or figuring out why things went wrong. It's just being able to have that component of forgiveness as part of being an authentic leader. And one of the things that you're welcome, Dan. I'll make you listen to the Bonanza song all the times. One of the things that I think is really important to speak about from the perspective of authentic leadership is this ability, because I think, okay, maybe let's start with the easy one, forgiving other people. I feel like there's two different things we have to talk here today: forgiving other people and forgiving ourselves for making a mistake. The more complex of the two being forgiving ourselves for making a mistake. And especially on that path of authentic leadership, you guys, I talk about this all the time, right? Like, even though we're trying to be authentic, that doesn't mean we know what is going to feel authentic all the time. It means that we're continually learning what it means to be authentic for ourselves, which also means that sometimes we're going to get it wrong. And sometimes we're going to need to forgive ourselves. So I want to talk about both of those things today. But let's talk a little bit about forgiving other people. Do you want to bring up Tanya's comment again quickly there, Carl Shawn?
Sure.
So forgiveness is often touted to be a theme. However, through today's lens, I think forgiveness as a theme might need to be revisited. I think, like so many things, man, I feel like we talk about the same thing over and over and over and over again with the show. And it's probably not surprising because all of these things are interconnected when it comes to being authentic and being a leader, is that we can call it what we want, right? Carl Shawn and I love to have fun with definitions on the show, right? We can call it anything, call it whatever. It's our topic for today, right? It's just, it really needs to get to the point where it is actionable. Like, what does it look like for you to forgive somebody? What does it look like for you to forgive yourself? And again, authentic, right? Which means my definition of what it looks like to forgive me is not the same as what it looks like for Carl Shawn or Tanya or Charlene or Jeff or Bruce or Dan or Benita or all you guys who are with us here today.
The gang's all here.
The gang is all here. Hey, howdy, gang. But this is the point, right? Why we wanted to focus on forgiveness is it's come up a couple of times in the last few episodes of this show. And we want to talk about that specifically. What does it look like to forgive from an authentic leadership perspective? And what kind of space does that create for other people to be authentic and to thrive in a working environment? So, Carl Shawn, to take it from there, my friend, what are some of those things? Because I see vulnerability tied very much into forgiveness, right? If we don't have vulnerability, I feel like we are likely not forgiving ourselves or maybe even other people.
No, and it's amazing that you would even think that. I have no idea where you got that idea from about the vulnerability piece of that, but it's so very true. Because when you're looking and you're thinking about the actual process of saying, not even necessarily say I'm sorry, because we get this quote unquote kind of like thing, stop saying you're sorry, like you apologize, or just saying the word sorry, just kind of some kind of connotation it's not positive, right? You apologize, and most of the time we say we're sorry. They're in situations and role in which we're really not sorry for. We just may be sorry how things came out, how things happened, how things were said.
Unless
Because
you're
most
Canadian, which some of us are, and we're just sorry for everything.
yeah. So when you said that, when you said that you're sorry now, it's been put to a place of where that's showing a sign of weakness, that's showing a sign of you, whatever the PC political correctness is of that. I still think sorry is appropriate because sorry is remorseful, and remorseful goes into the vulnerability of the individual. So when you say that you're sorry, because I can apologize about a lot of things, right? And if I'm going to apologize, that's what I do. I apologize for being late. Okay, so I apologize for that because there were things and situations where I had no control. Now I could just say apologize and say, "Yo, I apologize for being late. Thank you guys for waiting." Or I can be vulnerable in the sense of, yes, it wasn't out of my control, but my apology should be heartfelt, which should be meaning I'm sorry that I inconvenienced you guys for waiting on me for being late. Though it wasn't my, necessarily control where I can get here to a place of being on time. What I'm sorry has allowed me to do is to not only take accountability for, but it's also recognize that I have done something to you in the essence of that. And that takes vulnerability because that takes ownership, that takes accountability. So when we say we apologize to someone, the apologies have no meaning. And when I say that, it only has meaning by what it means. Ah, man, that was a tough one. Riddle me this, Batman. It only has meaning based upon what it means, right? The dictionary says that it means that. I'm sorry. But I'm sorry is remorseful. It's an intimate feeling of apologize. I'm really sorry about that. I don't want to do that. I want to do that. Yes, yes. Don't get me wrong. Before we go there, because I know it's going to be in the comments somewhere. When people say they're sorry all the time, it don't mean it. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely
Ooh,
right.
and
They
something
do.
I would really like to add here is because we're talking about forgiveness, right? I know we're funny Canadians. We do always say I'm sorry. I had this one scenario where I like bumped into another person. We were just like walking around a corner and bumped into each other, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm sorry," and she was like, "Oh my god, I'm sorry," and it was just really
Yeah,
funny.
I mean, like,
Very
yeah,
cute.
I mean, frankly, and it's a term. It also could be likened into a term of endearment too. Oh, dear, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Because it's so casually used. But I'm talking about if we're going to go to the depths of definition and the vulnerability of it, and saying that you're sorry. That's really more than those things. It's taking accountability of an action that was done to a person by you that was somewhat of what didn't go right with them, didn't go well with them, didn't sit well with them, offended them. I mean, the list goes on and on as to why we apologize. Or it could be just for our behavior in the midst of what we were doing that offends someone. And often when we're talking about authentic leadership, this is the apology that I'm speaking of, because it has to go to a level of, for you to continue that respect level. It has to go to a level of, first and foremost, it's believable. How many of you all have worked for leaders and say they're sorry? And you like, yeah, okay, yeah, right, yeah. Sure you're sorry, right? That's the credibility of the individual. That also goes to the authenticity of that individual who said that. Because if it's someone that you respect and you revere and they say that they're sorry, there's a different connotation of which you receive that. And that's what I mean by the role of forgiveness and authentic leadership. We carry that role as being authentic leaders so that someone will have that credibility. Well, we will have that credibility, I'm sorry. So when things aren't right, when things go wrong, when things are our fault, we can be open and vulnerable enough to admit those, be accountable for those, and let people know. Now, does that change my title? Absolutely not. Does that change how you think about me? Yeah, if I'm a crappy leader and now I'm telling you from the real, I'm sorry, it definitely does. Does that change how you feel concerning me? What you may do now as far as us working together? Because you've seen that authentically, I am sorry for the things that are taking place with us. And I think all of those things are really crucial to that. Uh, and Rena has a great question here. Is there ever a time we shouldn't allow an apology? Hmm. I got a couple of things to
So,
think on that, but I'll let you handle that there, Trace. I'll let you handle
okay. Anybody want to guess what I'm gonna say?
it. Ah, don't start it. Don't start it. Don't start. Wait,
When
before
do
we
you think you should?
before we get to that, I just want to pop up the part two of what Rena said. She
Yeah.
says she's never had a leader apologize, and this is from where she's forming this other question. can't.
And there's no way, let's just be honest, there's no way your leader has never made a mistake, right? Or has said something they regret saying or had a reason to apologize. But I want to, because Gina also said a really great note here about taking ownership when you are wrong goes such a long way. And this is true, but I want to talk about the connection between, and that this is going to meander into an answer for your question, Rena, I promise. The relationship between an apology and actual forgiveness, because those two things don't have to go together. So as a leader, I could apologize for doing something, and I cannot actually forgive myself for doing it. Also, someone else might not forgive me for doing it, right? And so there's we're now in this conversation about the apology, so we're going to talk about the apology, but I also want you
Yes.
guys to remember that these two, having an apology and getting to forgiveness, are not the same
Not the
thing.
same. One
No.
of these things are not like the other. One of these things
Yeah.
just isn't the same.
Right? Sesame Street. We
Yes,
all
yes,
know.
yes. Sesame Street
Um,
101. You give all kind of
right.
school 101.
And so there's a lot of, let me ask you this, Rena, and anybody else who's in the audience who wants to answer from your own perspective as well. When do you think you shouldn't allow an apology? I want you guys to think about it from your perspective. My perspective is that there are 0 times I wouldn't allow an apology. I don't know why. Let's keep it to the world of work. Okay, in the world of work, there's some, like, if someone murdered my son and then apologized for it, I'm having none of that. Like, just no, just no, I don't care about your apology. But let's think about it from the world of work, because that's what we're here to talk about. Within the world of
Yes.
work, I can't imagine a scenario where I wouldn't allow an apology. Someone was late. I'm sorry. Someone missed something. They missed a deadline. They missed something in editing. They made a mistake, right? To me, if someone makes a mistake, there's no way I wouldn't accept an apology, because I know and I believe that that you're going to make a mistake, that humans make mistakes, and therefore human mistakes deserve an apology. This is my opinion, right? This is on how I see humanity, how I see the world of work. If my boss steps on my toes in terms of me wanting to go home for dinner and apologizes for it, I welcome it, right? If my mom apologizes to me because she couldn't, like, watch my son and now I had to change my whole work day, right? Like, I accept that apology. And I want to get to some of these comments, because a lot of people are saying, like, blah, 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 blah. And
Yes,
Rena's
you
saying,
are.
that's nice of you. But I want to talk, I want to transition this over to forgiveness again for a
And
minute.
I got a couple of things that'll probably get us that give
Oh,
us that, because you
there's
always
so
have
many
stuff.
things.
I have,
So
but
many things.
I picked out three that I think that I think we're covering, and then you can add to these as well as we chat and go through them. Because when we talk about this sorry and this apologies and forgiveness, we do kind of, which is what the dictionary does, it's ambiguous. So we kind of like marry all these terms together, right? But we never bring out the preciseness of what each word means and what each word carries. But
Mhm.
as it is in essence to the authentic leadership part, I picked out three that I thought would kind of like give us some segues into discussing it in a manner that would keep us authentic, right? So first and foremost, I said forgiveness builds engagement and accountability. Now, when I said that in the beginning, I denote forgiveness with accountability. That's just me. That's just how I do it, and it's what it is. Forgiveness. Forgiveness to me means that you have taken onus of what you have done. You're remorseful for what you have done. So there lies accountability. And your
Oh,
remorsefulness,
we have to talk about this though, because
okay,
having remorse and forgiving yourself are still not the same thing.
No, not in the essence of forgiveness, but I'm saying in the essence of the authentic leadership part. Where if there's, because I mean, for you to continue, or just put it in this scenario and paint this picture. If you continue to work with someone and you don't forgive them, then that's going to be a crappy workplace. But I think you can understand the forgiveness of someone if you can, or even if they allude to the remorsefulness of their actions. Because I can work with you and I can accept your apology, but if there's no remorse there, then I'm no longer connected to you in the ability of leadership or working with, right? Or if
Well,
I'm
and
thinking
let's
that,
I think it's farther up in the comments now, but
that's
Tanya
okay.
was saying something about forgiveness and the need for it to include restitution,
Oh wow, she's gone
right?
too.
So I see that being connected
Well, I
to
well,
the
where's she
concept
trying?
of seeing somebody have remorse. Although I think restitution is very
Yeah, it's a little far,
complicated.
and yeah, I wasn't going to the rest. My remorsefulness to me, and I could just tie this up so we can. I gotta let you move to your next stage with that. The remorseful, why I put the remorseful to that, because remorseful gives me a credibility of accountability. Because if you're remorseful for something, you're taking into account that something was done wrong, that you've in some kind of essence offended someone. So there I can tie my forgiveness to that, because you acknowledge that you've done something wrong to me. You've taken accountability that you have, and therefore with your remorse, I am hoping that it's not a future occurrence. So I can attach forgiveness to that. Now I also have the blind forgiveness of which a lot of us have. I just forgive you because I don't want to carry the burden of what you've done on me. So I could do that, but I'm talking about when I'm talking about authentic leadership. If I know we're going to move, and that's why I put the engagement in there. If I know there's going to be something further along, I cannot continue to engage with you on the level of you're not accepting accountability for your actions. And if you're not accepting accountability for actions, first and foremost, I'm not going to forgive you for past, not the past ones that you've done when you was probably an axe murderer before we start working together, but just the ones that you've done since we started working together. So I just thought I'd throw that in
To confirm, we're not talking about murder at
there.
all
I just thought
in
that.
this conversation.
Yeah, I just thought that was.
That's gonna get way too complicated. But I will tell. I do want to get back to this concept of who is forgiveness for. So when you're
Oh,
looking at it from a authentic leadership perspective, and I shared my story earlier about I really like, quite honestly, and maybe it's just because I haven't come across it. And if you guys are thinking of a scenario where like I really feel like I couldn't forgive this person, like I've been thrown under the bus, I've been
oh,
all the things, right?
oh,
And I can understand why people do that. And I can choose this. Sometimes they don't have remorse. Some people do that on purpose in the
yeah,
work environment
absolutely,
because
absolutely.
they think that's what it takes to get ahead. I don't think that's what it takes to get ahead. So we don't see, me and that person don't see eye to eye in that scenario. If I don't forgive them, so I don't have to, right? Like I'm in control of myself. I don't have to forgive that person. They don't have any remorse. They don't have any accountability, right? I don't have to forgive them. Who does that weigh on?
It
It
weighs
weighs
on.
on me.
Yes.
Right? So this is the complexity about forgiveness because it's not actually for another person. It's
No.
actually for you to let it go. And that's why I see it being a lot simpler for me to forgive another person, especially because I know I can't change another person, right? Like they're going to do what they do. They have their background, they have their experience. They're making decisions based on what they know and where they want to go and what they know and what I know and where I want to go, what they know and where they want to go aren't the same thing, right? So I get to put that in that bucket as of we're different, and that's fine. And to me, one of the things that Tanya mentioned in the comments too is about being genuine, right? And I totally
Yeah.
agree with that. If you feel like it's not genuine for you to forgive somebody for something that they did, then we're talking about authenticity. If it's
Yes.
not supposed to feel fake, it's supposed to feel real. And
Real.
so even in that scenario though, so just I want you guys to imagine, and if you have one you want to share, I would love to talk about specific examples. And sorry, I'm like way behind on comments, so there might be
Now,
specific examples
I'm
in there.
trying to look at some of the comments. Some of the comments is
Yeah.
good. Rocio, she said,
Like this is a really great note,
yeah,
right? It's possible for a person to apologize, and we are not even in the space to realize that they apologize because we're too caught up in our own emotions, or we're trying to fight a fire, not a literal fire, but like a theoretical work fire, right? And we're not in the space to accept that. This is why apologies are so complex, right? Because even at one person might think that they have apologized, and they have.
yeah.
One person has apologized, and the reality to the other person is that they haven't apologized because they didn't hear it that way. How many times have you experienced that in your family? I bet you it happens with your family all the time.
That's good because we got some good comments flowing in here. Man, we
Yeah.
got some good ones. So I'll go
Um,
down here to Rocio. Rocio made another good point here. Sometimes we get what we communicate and are not aware of our communication and make sure how the person understands the communication is understood. Now, I thought I said riddle me this. That was a good one, Rocio. Riddle me that. Yeah, because a lot of times we're not really clear. And then it comes from a place too that where we probably don't need to go down that road, but I'll mention and probably get a few people excited in the comments. A lot of time that those forgiveness and those they're attached to feelings. So though I get your premise of let it go, because I think we've either heard it, we've either heard someone tell it to us, parents have probably told us about it. The forgiving is for you. It's so elementary. It hurts you to hold it. How many people really reconcile that with themselves and say, okay, I got to forgive this person? A lot of times that isn't the case. A lot of times it's attached to how they felt by what took place. So now, yeah, I know I'm supposed to. I'm gonna be petty and hold it. Yeah, I know I don't really. I know I'm supposed to forgive you because you're supposed to make me feel better, but no, I'm gonna hold a grudge. Or no, I'm gonna just block you from my page. So then we take that internally, and the forgiveness is forgotten about all again. I like that. Forgiveness is forgotten. Forgiveness is forgotten about altogether, right?
well, and we want some more riddles.
I
This
know,
is
right?
what this
Riddle.
makes me think of is that me not forgiving somebody
Mm-hmm.
requires me to forgive myself for not forgiving somebody. Right? So at
Oh,
the end, when we talk about authentic leadership, you guys, at the end of the day, it's about how does it make you feel? And if you're on the path that Tanya went down about when you know you can't be genuine, this person actually hurt me so badly that I can't forgive you for what you did. You have to forgive yourself for whatever else is going to happen because you can't forgive that other person.
true.
Right? What is going to happen down that line? I mean, a LinkedIn scenario is easy, right? Like block them from your page and don't think about them ever again. I
Yes,
shared a
that's
conversation, or I shared an experience I had. I think it was a couple of episodes ago where there was a gentleman I was following, and he did this whole post about how he pretends that he's authentic, but he's really an ass, and
oh,
you
oh.
shouldn't believe him. And I stopped following him. And I clearly haven't totally let it go because it just makes me angry. Because
So
like
have
the
you
complete
forgiven?
no, no, but I don't forgive him.
But
But I
that's
don't have to
attached to your
forgive him.
feelings,
He
though,
doesn't. He
right?
hasn't earned my forgiveness.
But
I
is that
forgive
attached to
myself
your
for
feelings?
stopping following him. Like I'm not going back and trying to follow up and see what he's talking about today. I keep sharing the story because I think it's relevant to what we're talking about. I forgive
Is that the true
myself.
reason why you're sharing this story? Because I think it may be a little bit
Yes,
more than
because it's the most relevant example that I have
that.
right
Okay,
now.
okay,
I forgive myself for not forgiving that guy
okay.
because we were in two completely different places. We believe two completely different things. There's no point in me following him. There's no point in him having me as a follower. It's just it's pointless. Our relationship is pointless,
Okay.
right? So when it comes to social media, these things are a little bit easier to deal with.
Yeah.
Not quite so easy to just go to work and block your boss.
Especially when you're there 9, 10, 11 hours a day, 40, 45, 50 sometimes, maybe a week. That is a lot of interaction with an individual, and I think that's where we get the attachment of how do I feel about it, and I
Mhm.
think that's really what weighs on us because we know all the insequential things of what forgiveness should be about, but I think we don't let the feelings go in that, or if we do, we don't fully let them go because I can't say everybody holds things to the same extent as others, but some things hurt more than others, and some things take on a body of work their own self based upon what somebody do to you. And it used to be, and my grandmother used to tell me all the time, it's like church hurt. So she said, I ain't have any problem with somebody hurting me that's out in the street. But she said, if I come into the church and I get hurt by the church people, that takes on a different level of hurt. And I've always remember her saying that, though I hadn't experienced it. I remember her putting the differences in that. And that got me to understanding the same thing. When people do things to you, it goes to, and I think someone had said this early when I think Bill said that, and he had asked a question about that. Isn't it circumstantial and built upon the level of the relationship to the interactions that brought about the apology? So a lot of times when we have these interactions or relationships of people that we work with 40, 50 hours a week, and we're in here, we kind of take for granted that these things should be a part of our unit, so to speak, that I should be able to have these open dialects or even maybe be able to have these conversations of where I won't hold it, or if I think you refuse to acknowledge the wrong that you've done to me, I think I carry that a little deeper because I do work with you every day. You do see me every day. You spend so much time with me every day. So you think it's not really fair to hold those feelings as retribution, as someone said.
Oh, this is like, you guys, this is, it might seem like a really simple concept, but this actually is really, really complicated.
Deep. It's deep.
I do like this share about not forgiving ourselves and others is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Absolutely, I like that. And see, that's what I'm saying. What how we get the understanding? We know what it would relieve us of,
Yeah.
right? We know the
Well,
remedy.
and so here's the thing. Let's paint a picture. Let's paint a picture, all
I
right?
like
So
pain.
let's just say your boss, because sometimes bosses are like this, your boss throws you under the bus for a thing. Project
Well,
fails or
who
whatever.
had a boss like that? Anybody in our?
Yeah, nobody's ever had a boss like
Nobody
that.
I know that had a boss like that. Right?
My favorite boss was the one who just like took all the credit for the good things. He wasn't actually my favorite boss, the one I'm thinking of right now. Took all the credit for all the good things and passed off all of the what was wrong for the bad things. Um, there's uh, when we have emotions.
Got some good books coming in here.
Oh man, I know there's just
There's
like too many good
comments.
things. Okay, I want to talk about this. We're human and we can be hurt, but if we don't process the experiences, can you bring that one back up, Tanya's comment? We tend to harbor them, bottle them, create grudges. Processing difficult emotions is key to this whole idea. And this is the thing, right? So when we talk about holding a grudge,
Yes.
somebody has done us wrong,
Yes.
right? The old country song, I've been
Yes.
done wrong. Someone stole my truck and took my dog, right? Like, sorry, it's just, you guys know,
Is
old
that
country
country
music with
Canadian
all,
or is that country American? Which one?
I don't know, like old country and Western, I feel like is all the same.
Oh,
But we don't have this conversation enough about what it looks like to process our emotions. When somebody does something that you think requires them to apologize, this is all happening in you, keep in mind. Someone's done something, you think they need to apologize for it. Why do you think they need to apologize? What do you think that their intent was? Was their intent to throw you under the bus? I had this on a like a home personal example. I had this conversation with my mom the other day because my grandma called her, said the TV was broken and needed a new TV. My interpretation of that is that my grandma was calling my mom for help. And my mom's interpretation of that was my mom is calling me to make me feel guilty, right?
wow.
Those two different interpretations of the exact same activity, regardless of what my grandma thinks, allow for two very different sets of emotions, right? So only when we have the understanding of that, when we feel hurt, when I think you need to apologize to me, what was my experience? Why do I think you need to apologize? And again, this probably plays into why I will accept an apology for everything, because most of the time I don't think you need to apologize for that, because I don't think you were trying to do me wrong. I think something bad happened and now we have to figure it out. Right. And so forgiveness, when it comes to, and then someone else had said it too, I think it was Rockio, about like forgiving ourselves, right? If we are going to talk about authentic leadership, we can't talk about being authentic unless we know who we are. The path to authentic leadership is learning what it looks like for us to be authentic, what is real for us, what is genuine for us, and what is not. And so when we're on that path, we have to learn to forgive ourselves as well, because we're going to get it wrong. We're going to do something that doesn't feel right. And then we need to forgive ourselves for doing that. And when we have these emotions, I don't know if I've ever said this on before, but I use this description often, is that emotions are like traffic lights. They're telling us what to look for. If we feel good, if we feel happy, we feel joyous, we feel whatever, green light, green emotion, right?
Go.
Keep
Let's
going
go.
with it.
Yeah.
Don't have to ask too many questions. It's really interesting if you ask questions, because you start to learn the things that you're passionate about
Probably
and
will be
things like that.
useful.
It's super useful, and we very rarely stop to talk about it, but that's not what this episode is about for today. We could do a green light emotions episode. That would be a feel good one. Yellow emotions are like, ooh, what is going on here? I need to stop and be wary. And then, or slow down and be wary. And then red is like, whoa, I don't want to feel this emotion anymore. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling whatever. And I want to escape
Yes.
from that emotion as quickly as possible. And the problem is if we don't investigate why we're feeling a red emotion, we will never understand why that is. We'll just feel the emotion. We'll be stuck in feelings, and we won't be able
Feeling.
to process. We won't be able to forgive ourselves. We won't be able to forgive other people. And this is where we start to hold a grudge, right? We just stay in our emotions and we make our emotions the things that are real. But our emotions are not. Our emotions are a response, a default response that we have based on our experiences to a thing that happened, because we think that thing that happened means something. It means something bad about us. It means something is wrong with us. We mean, fill in the blanks. There's lots of things we make it mean. But if we make it mean something that doesn't feel authentic to us, we have a red emotion. And then we think someone else needs to apologize. Well, the thing is that other person did not actually create that emotion for you. You created that emotion for you.
Yeah.
They might have been completely impartial in their activities, and it created something for you. And this is great. Oh my gosh. Rockio and I would need to connect, because she like thinks all my thoughts.
Yeah, she is
There's
an
just,
awesome
when we
sauce.
forgive, like, it's about understanding another person, right? But it's also about understanding ourselves and giving ourselves empathy and compassion to say, I didn't know what I didn't know yesterday. I didn't know what I didn't know 5 minutes ago when this thing exploded. And now I know more. And now I can do better. And you guys know I hate the word better, because I don't know
Not better, not
what it
another better
means.
episode.
We don't have to talk about that today. But it's, once you know better, do better. Right? And unless I know better, unless I start looking at some of these things, I don't know better. So I can't do better. And forgiveness is like so intricately intertwined.
It's sewn in. It's like if you were making it. I guess if you were knitting, knit one pearl two, right? If you were
Mhm.
knitting something together, you would have to knit forgiveness intertwined into all of that, and it would be pretty hard to kind of pull those strands out to separate, even when it goes to feelings, processes, how we take it on, how we don't forgive ourselves, how we take our feeling and dump that on someone else based upon actions that's done. It's so intertwined, but I think the one thing that stands out of all, or that separates you from it all, if that you're continuously to be authentic in who you are, everything will kind of like part in its own way with you just about all the time, right? If you can just stand on who you are, I think Bruce had a great segue to that. In essence of that, he said, Tracy taking a simplistic stance, which is true. You're not going to be for everyone, and others won't be your job. This is so true. When it comes back to respect someone and not agree, this is also true. Or and enjoy the interaction with others because we can agree to disagree. Though I've said on numerous occasions, I think we as a country have forgotten that aspect of dialect. I won't say negotiation because that's what everything turns out to be now. But a dialect is just that. I may not agree totally with what you stand, but I agree to disagree. And we go our separate ways. Or either we come together as a solution base and find one that meets in the middle and achieve what we're trying to achieve. But the bottom part of this, the latter part of this, is really what I like, and this is really where the authenticity comes out at. Trying to give grace, especially with people from different cultures in the beginning. I like the culture stance on that. But
Well, and
you try to give grace.
we all come from a little bit of a different culture, right?
Absolutely.
We all have a different background. We all have different culture. We all have a different experience. We all have different skills. We all are a unique puzzle, and every single human will have, to some degree, a different perspective than you. That's what's fun about this show. This is why these comments blow up to the point where we can't even read them
Yes.
all.
Da, da,
And
da,
they're
da.
all so good because everybody has the way that they think about it, and someone else's thoughts triggers a new thing. And this is what it looks like for like those of you who are watching, especially who are watching the replay and are not or not actively in the comments right now. This is what it looks like to have a conversation with people who think in the same realm
Yeah.
but aren't thinking the exactly same things.
Yeah. We're in
And
the
the
same
point isn't for
neighborhood,
us
but
to,
we're not on the same
yeah,
street.
we're having the same conversation, but we're having it from all of our different perspectives. And that's what adds the ability for me to learn, right? I get to learn different things. And I think it's so important. It's so important. Tara Argo, she always says, sit at the table, right? Sit at the table
Yes. Sit
with
at the
people who are
table.
different than you. And how can you sit at the table with people who are different from you if you can't forgive them for having a different perspective? They're meant to have a different perspective. And I want to quickly talk about the concept of agree to disagree because it's another piece of language that I think it leaves us as we're parting at a rift, right? Like we agree
Yeah.
to disagree and we are not aligned. One of the concepts in Dale Carnegie's teaching is to disagree agreeably. So in essence, it's the same thing, but the language is different, right? You end with the agreeably. So like even though we're disagreeing on a thing, we're agreeing to listen to each other. There's something that's been agreed in the relationship, that we're each going to give each other their space to have their thoughts and have their experiences and to respect that about them. And so that was just something for those of you who have never read Dale Carnegie or taken any of his training. That was one of the concepts that I continually go back to is the ability to disagree agreeably instead of, and that has a lot to do with your own feelings, right?
Yeah.
What if someone disagrees with you?
I was
How
going
does
to
it
touch
make
on
you
that.
feel? Does it make you feel attacked? Does it make you feel hurt? Does it make you feel stupid? Does it make you feel like an imposter, right? All of those things don't have anything to do with something the other person is doing. The other person is just stating their position, having a conversation, and you're making it mean something about you. And it doesn't have to mean something about you. And so when we talk about the forgiveness piece in that conversation, the person you need to forgive is yourself. I've been having all these thoughts about myself that are very disempowering. And I need to work on not having thoughts about myself that are this
Absolutely.
disempowering. So I forgive myself for that because I didn't know that until just this moment. And now, because I know better, I can do better.
Better, 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 better. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. And you talk about the marvelous teachings of Dale Carnegie, and I never end with that either because it's agreeably, but most of the time it's not agreeably, and I don't know why I can't lose this thought. This thought it's because it is so some of the things that we try not for us to be transparent, continuously to be transparent. And there's our emotions and our attachments that we attach to these separate incidents, occurrences, or conversations, or disagreements, whatever you want to label them. We never can come out of the function in the functionality of, okay, what you said was different than what I said. I respect what you said. I take no animosity to what you said. You just didn't agree with what I said. And I think in Dale Carnegie's teaching, this is really where he's trying to take us with this dialogue, is that we can agreeably disagree because we may not carry the same thought on what we're talking about. But oftentimes, and more times than not, and Rocio is really going the direction that I'm talking about, our opinions are formed through our own experiences. And when we're trying to explain that through our knowledge of our experiences and what we've seen through that, there lies the attachment comes from that. So if I'm trying to get you to see my point of view through something I've experienced, and you don't agree, first and foremost, and it seems that you in the disagreements I take as attacking because it's my experience. So how dare you attack my experience, right? Then here we align that with, is there any forgiveness in there that we really construe to even show? Because we have to get away from the emotions. I think you touched on that, and Rocio touched on that as well. We have to detach ourselves with that, and I wish it could be as simple as what you said
Ooh,
earlier.
no, I will disagree agreeably.
You went, hey, that's I like that. I like that. We disagree
We
agreeably.
don't, it's not about detaching from our emotions. This is something that has been, that quite honestly drives me nuts about the world of work. Is like, let's just leave our emotions at the door, like
Oh
they're
no,
our
no, no.
jacket, and we're not going to deal with them today. No,
Yeah.
that's not how it works. It's not about detaching from our emotions. It's about learning how to process our emotions in a healthy way so that our emotions can be productive. Emotions give humans a capability that no other creature on the planet can have, that a robot can't have, that like we're the only species that can have that relationship with other people. And our emotions give us an opportunity to build on that, to investigate why we're attaching meaning. And if we think about detaching from that, we lose all of the learning from that. We lose the ability to build emotional intelligence. I did a post about this. I think it was after our last episode, maybe, on the concept
Actually,
of like,
Rocio mentioned that.
how can we build emotional intelligence if we pretend we don't have any emotions? Like,
Yeah,
we
someone
can't.
has said that, and yeah, that someone has said that. And when I know I probably get a trigger. With I didn't mean to say detach. It's almost like better. You know, say certain words around Tracy. You get the
Well,
attack.
and it's just like,
No, but
I
when I
just
mean
feel
attached,
like
I,
it's
I don't mean
important
like really
because
a
people,
separation of.
I know that you don't mean that.
Yeah, not
I
like
just think
because
that
you.
there's a
I
lot of
want you to
people
feel. I'm
who
vulnerability,
do
guys.
think that.
I want you to feel. I want you. I want you to be in that perspective of your feelings because I am one. I'm under the same thing that I raise my children to say. When someone does something you don't like, make sure you tell them. When someone does something that you do like, make sure you tell them. So I just gonna hop on one side. Yeah, I'm fair. I'll give this here because a lot of times we don't want to say things and we hold things based upon what has happened. I think a lot of it goes back to ourselves because it all goes back to ourselves. Let's rewind. It all goes back to ourselves and how we interact and how we understand ourselves. I think Rosia said that earlier. There's so many comments I'm getting like whiplash trying to
I know. We're
line. But she said there are unresolved emotions and issues, right? So they all begin with us. And when we look at it is that we don't forgive ourselves. So in essence, we don't know ourselves. So in essence, when others come in our territory or space, so to speak, then the emotional parts of us take over from the intelligence, even though you need emotional intelligence, right? The emotional part takes over from the intelligence part, and therein lies we take on things and hold things, and then they become unresolved emotion and issues. So when I was saying detaching, I'm just meaning in a way of maybe mentally,
Or
you know,
how about forgive? How about we don't attach?
Hey, how
We
about we just go
forgive.
back to How about we just go back to the forget Chase? I love it when you play like the A team. I love it when a plan comes together. So you bring
It's
it
like
back
we
to that.
plan these things.
Yeah,
It's kind
yeah.
of
It's
awesome.
just like it's scripted. I love these scripts.
But there's a comment that Carla made here
Where's Carla? Carla
about
is
processing
another one.
emotions. Yeah, with
Yes.
compassion, optimism, truth, trust, curiosity, and the word curiosity came up quite a few times actually in the backlog of comments that we can't possibly get to. But
But we thank
this
you.
is the
But we
thing.
thank you.
Yes, we thank you. You guys are creating just bomb conversation for these
Yes,
episodes
absolutely.
lately. Boom, 2022.
Uh,
It's these are the things when we can really be curious, right? And that's why, again, I think for me, that's why it comes back to the fact that I believe that there's very few things that I can't accept an apology for. Because if I get curious, I'm likely to find out why that happened, why they showed up that way. It's a something that I don't know. Some of these things go really deep into how people act,
yes, they're more than
right?
surface.
Right. And I they don't have my experience. They don't know the things that I know. And therefore I find it easy. And quite honestly, you guys, I've found in practice for me a lot easier to forgive other people than to forgive myself. I think I
Most
realized when I
people
was
do, I
about
think.
36 that I had never forgiven myself for anything ever. And then I had to start practicing it. And this is another thing that we talk about a lot on this show is the concept of practicing
Practice.
authenticity, practicing leadership, right? We actually have to
Practice.
practice what Carla is saying here, the emotional processing. Really, we
Yeah.
have to practice processing emotions. We have to practice
Practice.
forgiving ourselves when we don't do that, right? When we sit in anger or we sit in grief or we sit in whatever, right? Like, and I know, I'm sure everybody's experienced this as well, where you have an emotion and then you pile like guilt on top of it,
Oh,
feeling
yes,
guilty for
yes.
having that emotion. And I've seen this happen in the workplace, you guys. I have seen this happen where an individual makes a mistake and there is no way on earth I can make that person feel worse than they already do,
I already do.
right?
Isn't this
And you
true,
don't
right?
have to apologize to me. You made a mistake. We are here to make this work as a team. You are a valued member of the team. And in this moment, and I appreciate your apology. I accept your apology. You do
Yes.
not have to apologize. I forgive you. I have oh my gosh, I had this like really big mistake that an employee made who was working for me. Like they ended up charging the client didn't do good approvals. Sometimes clients don't check the information, right? Technically, the client approved it. There's no way they looked at it. They ended up getting billed like 3 times
Oh,
what they
wow.
normally get billed, and nobody caught it until the invoice went out. And the
Mm,
client came back and said, like, "Whoa, why is this invoice so expensive?" And like seriously, that person wanted to quit. She wanted to hide under her desk and never come out, right? Because she made a mistake. What did we do? We ended up crediting a bunch of the calls to the client, right? Like it's not that bad because I'm the impartial third. I'm not that impartial, but
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
impartial. I didn't make the mistake, right? There's so many people, and like I being one of them, where like when I've made mistakes, the guilt is like there's you don't even have to tell me anything. I appreciate the weight of this situation I have created. No one can make me feel worse than I already do. Let's try and move forward and fix it because we just can't. And it's interesting. Carla's saying guilt is a false emotion. Kick it to the
Yeah.
curb, right?
Kick
It's
it to
just
the curb.
it compiles. It's because we think we need to feel guilty that we made a mistake and now we have to feel guilty. But when we talk about this is one of the things I think is so beautiful when we can really get to this place of authentic leadership is where guilt doesn't exist because you
Mm,
know you're going to make a mistake. Everyone's going to make a mistake at some point in every single part of their life, so including work,
yes.
right? And
More
when you
so
live
than
in
not.
an environment when you know that maybe you feel bad, right? Like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I need to make sure I have a process for this. I need to. That guilt isn't a thing that gets layered on top of whatever emotion you're currently dealing with, because we don't do guilt here, right? We
No, we
don't do
don't.
guilt. There's nothing to feel guilty for.
Gil got to walk
And
out the door.
right.
Oh, now
And there's
go.
so many,
Go
there's
out the
so
door.
many organizations. I was actually talking to my husband about this, and I don't think creation I don't think organizations create this on purpose, but there's companies that are built on blame, right? An emotion that is attached to blame is guilt. So if you have
Yes.
an organization that
And shame.
focuses on blaming somebody for a problem, the societal response to blame is guilt. So it's we create these environments where we blame other people, and then we wonder why people feel guilty. Well, we really
Yeah.
shouldn't,
And
because
then
that's the
that leads to
societal
other
narrative.
things. Yeah.
Yeah,
That narrative continues on in other things, and shaming
yeah.
and judgment. There's a few of the other ones that kind of hang around that guilt fella.
Well,
Because
and it's like
once
a
I put
lot
the
of us
guilt on
even
you, yeah,
feel that fear, right? Like that if
yeah,
if we make a mistake, we're gonna get fired, right?
yeah,
And if we're from the position of leadership, and I know Gina has shared about this before in her leadership role right now, we know you're going to make a mistake, right? Like it's not, yes, to err is human. So, well, apparently we've been talking about it for 30 years, but we haven't done anything
three
differently.
thousand. She said 3,000.
3,000,
3,000,
right.
and
And we
still
still
going.
haven't done anything differently
We still
in
going.
3,000 years for people to feel that it is actually true, that it's fine, that it's actually fine to make a mistake. If you aren't making a mistake, you're not growing, you're not doing all these things. And even to me, like, I don't even know that I need to forgive you for making a mistake,
Yeah,
right?
I'm still up in the air with that.
Yeah. But here's the thing, right? Like it just is, forgiveness is a complex web we weave, right?
Yeah,
When we think people have to earn forgiveness, what does that do to them? How heavy of a responsibility is that, right? Going in and knowing that if I make a mistake here, I have to earn forgiveness back. You're going to earn trust back, right? Like you probably have to earn trust back. You may have to earn responsibilities back. You may have to earn some things
there's
back.
some things, right? You can't earn forgiveness. I even think if you look at the concept of forgiveness, even if you look at it in the spiritual connotation, or even in religious based Christianity, those kind of, like when you think about those bases, forgiveness was nothing that you earned. Christ is supposed to be forgiving you, right, for your sins, right? So I mean, and you can't pay him back by, it's no way that you can officially say, okay, you forgive me for my sins, I'm gonna pay you back, write this big check, or I'm gonna do these millions of different good feel good things to do. I think you made a great point there, because it can't be earned, and we put the weight of it on people as if there's some way to pay that back. And that's, I think that the connotation of you have to forgive to be forgiven, because it's a status quo operation. I forgive you, you forgive me, and that cancels out everything. But we never hold that truth to the fire in the forgiveness. And you said that, and that is really a great way of looking at it. Oftentimes we put that to people earning it. So therefore, if someone has earned it, their first mind is that maybe I don't make that mistake, so I don't be forgiven. And then in not making that mistake, there's no learning, because Carla has simply told us that with the greatest of understanding, that it freezes us in our tracks, and we can't process valuable information from every emotion so we can learn. So we are meant to learn from mistakes. But if we're scared to make those mistakes based upon the guilt, the shame, the judgment of being of making that mistake, and know we're not going to be forgiven for that, because your mistake costs the bottom line. You not doing that report cost the company millions. That's the
Right.
guilt that's associated with it.
Right. And like I can't actually control the guilt that someone else feels, right? I
No,
can try and create an environment where it's safe to make mistakes. And I like what Carla's saying here about judgment, although I'm not resonating with the word judgment, but what I think is important here is that me forgiving you for making a mistake does not mean you don't have to correct your mistake. Does
Absolutely.
not mean that I'm going
Accountability.
to judge you a lot more harshly if you make that mistake again, right?
Accountability. Yeah.
It doesn't mean any of those things. So one of the last things I want to talk about, though, because this just came up for me in the last few minutes, was this concept of trading forgiveness. And what if you guys, what if me forgiving you allowed you to forgive yourself?
I think that's how it's supposed to work, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think this is what we forget, right? Like we hold our forgiveness so close to the chest, and then it takes so long for another person to process what they've done to us. I want to share a personal example here because I was married once before, my current husband. We did not have a good relationship really the whole time we were together, which was like 10 years in total.
Oh wow.
Um,
Took 10 years?
Meh.
But that's
This is not
another
a
show.
relationship coaching
Yeah,
show.
that's
The
another show.
point is, I left that relationship blaming him for a lot of things, right? And holding a grudge that my life wouldn't have been so crappy if he had just been this magical unicorn human that I was looking for. When I went and I did my landmark forum, this was the like first time I really understood the power of forgiveness. What I did was I forgave myself for all of the things I did wrong in that relationship. And I
Awesome.
told him that. I told him that. We went out for dinner and I told him that. And I was like, I have been holding this grudge against you for so long. And really, a lot of this was me. And this is how I've let it go. And see, I could see the
Proud of you,
weight
Stacey. I'm proud of you.
lift off of his shoulders. It was just amazing because he got the opportunity to forgive himself because he was also holding himself accountable for that. He was blaming himself for, I think that was like a year or more after we had like finally gotten divorced.
That's a heavy
And
burden.
it's a heavy burden to carry. And it was, I think, the greatest gift I could have given him to tell him that it was not his fault. And not only did
Absolutely.
I know it wasn't his fault, but I had forgiven myself for this. And I could feel like totally at ease having a conversation and just like having dinner. And it was just amazing. And I know a lot of the times these things are hard to see, hard to conceptualize until you have done it. And I really encourage you guys from an authentic point of view, right? Like, again, don't be forgiving people for stuff that you aren't ready to do yet. But
Mm.
if from a space, if I'm all about authenticity, right?
Yes.
And somebody tells me something that's true to them and I do not agree, I will not hold you I will not hold you guilty for that, right? I forgive you. So
I
you
forget.
can do what you want with that. Pass it on. Give that forgiveness to yourself. Give that forgiveness to someone else, right? Like have the what is that? Where you the pay it forward.
Yeah,
Just pay it
pay that
forward.
forgiveness forward.
Pay it forward with forgiveness. And it's just there's so much space. There's so much space for humans to live a fulfilled life at home, at work, because we're not holding these grudges. We're letting them go. We're forgiving ourselves for
Let
our
it
past
go.
failings.
Let it go.
Yeah, I could sing that. I like you guys. I miss karaoke
Let
so
it
much.
go. Let it
That was my
go.
karaoke jam. That and Ice Ice Baby.
This is
Um,
amazing. Look at we've come over the hour. We've had a
oh yeah.
tremendous conversation, and you guys are on fire. We definitely appreciate you guys with all of the comments, the great conversation. Carla, you're a genius with your emotional intelligence, always sharing with us. We thank Rocio for coming by and making our lives awesome with her comments, and everyone that came by. Holland, we thank you. Bonita, we appreciate you. Tanya, as always, Bruce. We thank you for coming out, and we thank you, Tanya, for always bringing the great comments that you bring. Like Charlene for showing up as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys have made this awesome thing. So now I don't feel bad being late because I've got
Maybe we
forgiveness.
should always be 10 minutes late.
I know this works. This works in our favor, right? Maybe this is something we should keep up right now. No, but I appreciate you guys' patience and you guys coming by and sharing in the comments, making this discussion exactly what we want it to be, an authentic leadership discussion. And we see authentic leadership from so many different lenses, including my eyes, which are four. We see them in Tracy's four as well. So we see them through our eight lenses, but we definitely want to see them and hear your guys' perspective, and you guys do just that. So we thank you. We appreciate you. Trace, what do we have coming up for them with the peeps?
Oh man, we always have something going on with the peeps.
Got
So
something
if
with
you
the
guys
peeps.
want to continue this conversation actually with your voices instead of just with your typing, we encourage you to join us at the in the Impact membership with the Your Business
Impact.
Peeps community.
Yes, wait,
We
wait.
have a weekly authentic leadership mastermind, which we are like 15 minutes late for
Yes, yes, yes.
today. Um, which is all good.
It's all good.
It's an extension of these types of conversation. And
Yes,
the goal is to empower you in your leadership to bring these things to life, to create a
absolutely.
space where you can start practicing so that it's a lot easier to continue practicing that in your day to day when you take it to work. And so, if this is a conversation you guys want to continue, one, we're going to be here every week at the same time
Yes. Same time,
having this
same bat channel.
conversation.
Yes.
Yes, but we
Unless
would
it's a
love to
holiday
get
or something, or unless it's
that's
something
true.
like that,
If
and
it's a
we'll
stat
let you know.
holiday, we'll
Yeah.
probably be there on Tuesday.
Yes. Yes.
um, but you will always know in advance. So watch the invites. And if you guys want to make sure that you're consistently being invited to the live streams, let us know, and we'll make sure to get you on the invite list, so you don't miss it and you can add it to your calendar.
Yes.
But if there's something that you're working on, you want to take it a little bit in more depth, have some more conversations in a smaller group about these topics, Carl Sean's got the link down there. Like check it out. We have if you're interested in checking it out before you buy in, we're all about that.
We're
Let
all
us
about
know.
that.
We'll give you the link to come for a sneak peek. Probably not on a day where we go so far over.
Yeah, we want
um,
to get the full experience of that. We want to
yes.
make sure that you
But
get the
we
full
also have an
experience.
open house coming up on February 22nd
Be there, be
for that
square.
membership. Yep. So that's a free sneak peek as well. So if that's something you guys are interested in, you'd like to explore a little bit more, reach out to me, reach out to Carl Sean. We'll make sure you guys have the resources. And as always, we are here to keep having these conversations so they don't get
Absolutely.
forgotten about.
Absolutely. So we thank you all again for coming by. We thank everybody. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful beginning. Oh no, wonderful rest of your week. Because we've already given you a wonderful beginning to your week. Yes, yes. We've taken credit for this. Yes, absolutely. And regardless of what you went through for the course of the day, for most of y'all in our viewing audience, your day are either coming to an end, has ended, and you're preparing for the next day because we are a global show and we thank you for coming out and watching us. Until next time, me and Tracy will see you guys later, and we hope to see you in the Peeps community. Come and check it out, the Peeps. See you guys next week.